welcome to the Knightline Podcast, your source for UCF football and former UCF player information. All right, Night Nation, this is episode number 6 of the Knightline Podcast. This is Andrew Phegley, and to my left...
As always, this is Troy Ondrizek. Thank you for listening.
All right, we're coming to you from the 1148 studios today. First of all, Houston, we have a problem.
Houston has a bigger problem than we do. They got smacked.
Yes, Houston definitely does have a more of a problem than we do. I was trying to think of something to say there. Anyway, this is, like I said, episode number 6. We're going to have a lot to cover today. Yesterday was the UCF Penn State game.
We've been waiting for that game for so long.
So long, and at least I am deeply disappointed in the outcome of that game. I'm disappointed in coaching. I'm disappointed in playing. I'm disappointed in a lot of things.
Commentating, that was terrible too.
Referees. There are many things that are difficult to swallow from that game. So today, I guess we're gonna start with a little bit of a game summary. Then we're gonna talk about some NFL news. There were a couple UCF players that made NFL teams and a couple people that got cut. We're gonna do Kurt's questions, and yes, we have music for Kurt's questions. A special little intro.
Oh, you're gonna love it.
You are gonna love it, and then we're gonna just talk more about the game later, and then we're going to basically, where do we go from here? So
up. I mean, it's possible we go down against Mizzou, but there was something in that second half that can give us hope for the rest of this season.
Absolutely.
There's something in that first half that I almost don't want to talk about.
Well,
but we have to.
Yeah, let's talk about it because that's where we're at this point. Go ahead, Troy. You go first.
You know, I'm sure DeNovo is a very nice young man, and I've seen this a lot of times in boxing. When guys are sparring, they're in the gym, they look like all-stars. Except I've seen top-rated heavyweights get knocked around by, middle-of-the-pack guys. Then when the lights turn on, the crowd shows up, and the pressure's there. They just don't perform. It's like Rob Calabrese. He was a really good practice quarterback, but he never brought it to the field. It just didn't translate. And for DeNovo, it did not translate well.
DeNovo has had more time, though, with this team than just this year. I believe that I'm sure that he got practice squad snaps last year. I don't think that he would have just sat there and did nothing. And, so it's not like he's never taken a snap with any of these guys. There was practice this year. There was, I guess in the spring game I was not able to attend, but I don't think that his...
Under pressure is what it was. Not just pressure from Penn State's defensive line, not just pressure from the expectations of what we have. He just wilted under pressure. You mentioned butterflies. Butterflies flew faster than how fast he threw that ball. He had a 15-yard in and out, and he stepped into that throw, and it didn't make it there.
He threw, somebody said on the boards, and I listened to a lot, I read a lot of what people were saying last night in the dungeon board, because a lot of good discussion goes on there. Some people went a little overboard with some of the things that they said. You have to remember this is a 18 or 19-year-old kid, maybe 20. All these guys are. They're not professional football players.
Except for Jordan Akins, he's 22.
Yeah. So, we need to give them a little bit of a break and not, say personal things, which I think a couple people did, and I don't think that that's fair.
All right there, media police. Listen,
no,
we're passionate fans.
We are passionate fans, but, come on.
He failed miserably. Let's just put it out there. Terrible first half. You texted me, Troy, take some notes. There's going to be a lot to talk about tomorrow. What was my response?
I can't say it totally, but it was, no, I'm beep it, I'm going to drink.
That's all it was. It was a terrible first half, and it's the reason why we lost. We lost because we started de novo. Yes, we could have got the field goal when, Akins runs that ball. 68-yard return. We get down to the goal line. 3 terrible rushing attempts in a row. Then we try a play action on 4th and goal. And de novo, where did he throw that ball? Where?
Not to the right person. Into the crowd is where he threw it, I believe.
People talk about, let's look at the good side of what we had in
and
the first half.
I understand throwing the ball away sometimes because you have to throw the ball away, but not in that instance. There were people there that probably could have caught that ball.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't throwing it away. The bright side is he didn't turn the ball over. The realistic part of that is he didn't turn the ball over because he didn't throw it close enough to any human being for Penn State or UCF to catch it.
Right. Let's go over some first half stats here real quick.
I don't want to cry.
In the first half, we had 3 first downs. 3. Our third down efficiency, 1 of 6. Fourth down efficiency, 0 for 1.
That would
total
be the 4th and goal.
yards, 35 total yards compared to Penn State's 221 total yards. We had 18 yards passing. He completed 3 of 7. 3 of 7. For a grand whopping total of 2.6 yards.
All right, you just dropped an insane amount of terrible news. But riddle me this. What was the score at halftime?
It was 10-3.
So we were in the game. Nothing on offense. Our defense kept us in the game at half.
They did. And it's not all bad as far as the defense. There were some shining moments from them as well. But we had no offense whatsoever.
And then what happened in the second half?
Holman came in at 6:41 in the second half and lit a freaking fire.
And then when our offense arrived, our defense went sightseeing.
They did.
They watched Hackenberg toss long ball, big play, one after another on us. We had no pass rush outside of Mamea. I think, was it Luke Adams? He was dancing, doing the waltz with their tackles. What happened? It was a tale of two halves, and tale of two sides of the ball in two halves.
Yeah. It's, there were a few injuries, but that's no excuse because we should have depth, and we do have a little bit of depth. I was pretty happy, though, that we kept Zwiniak really pretty low on...
Yeah, that was great because...
32 yards rushing.
He didn't have to rush the ball much because Hackenberg was lighting us up. I tell you what, give us the stats in the second half for our offense. It looked brilliant. If you gave us all the crappy stats in the first half, we might as well see what Holman did. 9 for 14, right?
Yeah.
1 touchdown in the air to Josh Reese within a minute.
9 for 14 and 204 yards, with the longest being 50 yards. He got sacked one time, but
and that was in the first half.
Obviously night and day. So,
no pun intended.
Where did this decision come from? Well, we know where this decision came from, but I want to know what the decision was based on, to be honest with you. I want to know how he made Pete DeNovo the starting quarterback.
What's that word? Fieldsmanship?
Yeah, but fieldsmanship doesn't win you games.
We know that, Stephen Moffitt. We know that, Rob Calabrese. We know that, George O'Leary and the quarterbacks before Godfrey and Bortles.
Yeah. Well, it's not then, this is now, and I'm
now
shocked.
It's still an issue because George O'Leary is a little stubborn.
He is.
Do you think he's going to start de novo again?
It's possible. I wouldn't be, horribly surprised to see that. I don't want to see that. I hope that we don't see that.
I would be horrified if I saw that.
I would be horrified as well, yes. I
think he could beat Bethune-Cookman, and that's still an iffy. But definitely not against Mizzou or our conference slate or anyone else. And I hate to be negative about DeNovo. I'm sure, like I said before, he's a nice young man, but right now he's not ready. And I don't know if that arm's ever going to be ready.
Yeah.
And Holman, who might have looked terrible in practice, and we've seen a lot of you talked about the guys on the dungeon, a lot of them who went to practices and stuff. Brandon Helwig being the guy who runs the site, talked about how bad Holman looked in practice. But he plays at game speed.
He does.
I mean, his decisions were quick. Guys on the slants, he got that ball out of there. The offensive line didn't have to take so much time for him to make a decision. They were accurate. He had zip on his passes, and the receivers
he has such
plays.
a cannon, man. I mean, just a cannon. That guy throws those passes so fast. It's crazy.
I mean, when he got
he also was able to take off and run. He saw the holes open that the line opened for him and took advantage of them. You know, he played a lot closer to what I, saw Blake Bortles do last year. And I know that he's not Blake Bortles. There will never be another Blake Bortles. I know that. But there were flashes of that type of play, the clutch play that Blake had.
The clutch was huge. I mean, he brought us down with a minute with 13 left, and we took the game leading touchdown when he had that nice little draw play. No turnovers, 1 passing touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns, all in the second half, brought us back into the game. So which leads us to question not just the decision for our coaching staff on who should start the game, but some of the play calls. Did you touch on our running backs?
Yeah, I was going to go there next. Number one, those of you that don't know, I'm sure everybody knows. You wouldn't be listening to this if you didn't watch the game, but Stanback was out, obviously. And supposedly he has a turf toe thing going. Turf toe is a bad deal. I don't care who you are. It's when your toe, basically, your big toe is got sprained, and you cannot plant without that big toe. That's what that big toe does. You can't change directions. You can't plant. You can't hardly do anything. It hurts when you walk. It takes time for this to heal, so keep him out if we have to, these, I guess, non-conference games.
There's 3 types of injuries for what he has. It's called turf toe. One, you have a complete rupture of the tendon going from your medial phalange to your distal one on your big toe, which
he read this on Wikipedia.
I did not. However, we do in the work in the medical field, so we can talk to some people, which leads to surgery. Second is you just have a sprain of the ligament, which you could have a tear in your myelin sheath that goes around it or anything like that, and that takes time. You have little blood flow to your tendons, which means it takes longer for them to heal. It's unlike your bones, which, where we develop everything. And then the other one is where on your distal phalange or mediate, the tendon will actually separate
your toes
from the bone and take a bone chip with it. That's the one where you heal the quickest because of how fast your bones heal. But all of it leads your big toe to be disabled, and therefore you can't plant. And this happens on turf and sometimes in basketball, but usually soccer players, anything on artificial turf. Now, if you play in grass or anything like that, it's much softer and you don't find these issues.
There were some incredible athletes over the years, especially in pro football, that were really bothered by turf toe.
I remember Jeremy Shockey, I think, had to retire because of it.
Yeah, Jonathan Ogden had a big problem with turf toe. Ray Lewis had a big problem with turf toe. And also McFadden from the Raiders. He's been out a lot over the years because of his turf toe.
Was it because the Raiders sucked? I thought because they had no offensive line.
Yeah, that's part of it too, but definitely some turf toe problems there as well.
So it could be a long time before we get Stanback back.
Yeah. So I think we need to go someplace besides just
Dontravius Wilson?
Dontravius Wilson.
I mean, what was his stats? He averaged 24 carries for 26 yards? I might have not remembered the stats.
21 carries for 41 yards.
Boy, did I read those stats wrong.
Yeah.
But that's paltry. That's less than 2 yards per carry.
And then one loss, or I guess losses that piled up to 7 yards, so a net of 34 yards.
Oh, there we go.
His longest was 16 yards, and his average was 1.6 yards.
And not all of it was on him. I mean, let's look at some of the play calling. All these draws. There was, and then read option when the quarterback never kept the ball and ran with it. I mean, our running game, we didn't have solid blocking. We didn't have, one-cut runs. Our running game was non-existent.
Yeah, well...
Hence, our whole offense in the first half was non-existent.
Yeah. There were definitely some bad deals on defense as well. The safeties, you can't... When a team is passing on you this much, why are you so worried about stopping the run?
He set the record for yards in a game in Penn State history. They've been playing football, if my memory serves me correct, since 1472.
Yeah.
Not quite, but... listen, they haven't
454 yards.
They haven't had a lot of good quarterbacks.
Torched our defense.
They, in the first half, then now fourth quarter, we were missing Terrence Plummer. We're missing our leader. Our secondary is incredibly talented, and we put
Jacoby Glenn was hurt at one point, which hurts us because, on that long touchdown, we had...
Which one?
Well,
the one where the 79-yarder where it was 3rd and 17, and we had just scored, and Griffin bit on the inside, and he went over the top. When it's 3rd and 17, who cares if they get a 12-yard completion? They still have to punt.
Jacoby Glenn was not in for that play. That was...
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
You keep him in front of you. Yeah. You take the momentum. Give the ball back to our offense. We put a lot of emphasis for creating turnovers in our secondary, and that might have hurt us. That's why we got aggressive. And then when we got our tails burned, we put the tails between our legs, and we gave them so much space to be able to drive down the field.
Yeah. So there were some shining things as well, though, that were good.
Absolutely.
The wide receivers, especially JJ and Perryman.
And you can't forget Reese.
And Reese, of course, did wonderful jobs. They only 4 wide receivers, 4 people got the ball thrown to them at all. So it was Warden, Perryman, Reese, and Wilson got 2, I guess, thrown to him. So,
well, there could have been more, but we didn't know where DeNovo's passes went.
Right. They were...
Anyway, defensive line, Mamea was really, really exceptional. He got in, disrupted the backfield, and then in the second half, I guess he got tired. We didn't get any pressure on Hackenberg. Like I said before about Adams, I would like to see Deion Green in there. Where was McDowell?
We did have a couple turnovers, which were good. As far as getting them on the defense, Jacoby Glenn got one, and Ozerites both intercepted a ball. Jordan Atkins did a wonderful job in the return because Hall wasn't here, and I was shocked by even seeing him as a return guy, being as big as he is. But he's fast, and, I think he could be really good at that. I don't want to replace Hall, of course, but I think that Jordan could definitely fit into that. And then Sean Galvin. The kickoffs were not that good.
Line drives.
They were.
He kicked it down to the goal line, which is nice, but he didn't have any hang time. Our coverage couldn't get there. It gave him better starting position. After
one of the Penn State kickoffs went into the end zone, I saw O'Leary look at Galvin and say, "Did you see that right there? Did you see how he did that?" Yeah, it was kind of weird.
You sure he used exactly those words?
Probably not those words, but he was definitely pointing it out, being like, see how that guy kicks the ball? Okay, so enough on that for right now. We'll come back with some. We have some questions here. Let's do that real quick.
All right, let's. You ready to cue it?
Actually, I changed my mind. I want to play the radio interview right after the game from UCFKnights.com of George O'Leary.
Coach, tough one here today.
Yeah, it really was. I thought, that's why we had to make plays in that with the defense, and we didn't come up with any. And, you just can't let them slice down the field like that and kick a field goal. That was the difference in the game. And we didn't play as well as we should have on defense, in my opinion. Too many big plays given up by the secondary. And offensively, we never woke up to the second half.
And Justin Holman really was a spark plug coming off the bench.
He really did. He went out there and did a nice job and stuff. And it's just a tough loss. You have a chance to make one stop, and the defense got to bow up and make that stop. And I expect them to make the stop. Get your hands on the ball. They come up with it. We don't. You can't do those things, especially when it means the ball game. And that's the difference in the game right now.
And you guys made some big plays down the stretch, including on that drive with 3 minutes to go and the long 4th down catch by Josh Reese.
We really did. And, that's why it's a tough lesson. You got to stand up and you got to make plays when you have the opportunity. And defensively all day gave up too many big plays. I thought the secondary was god-awful, in my own opinion. Way too much transition, way too much space. And, I just don't think we played like we should play back there. Too many big plays.
And the experience of coming here was tremendous, though, for this program.
It was great. That we had a great opportunity to come over and play. And, Penn State made some plays. Christian's a very good player, obviously. But we had our planned chance to make plays, and we didn't make it. And we had a chance to put it away at the end, and that's what's disappointing is that we didn't.
Torian Wilson was also interviewed after the game, and here's what he had to say.
Penn State is a good team, and we didn't play as well as we should have. It was a couple plays, I felt like I could have done better. But, we have Missouri up next.
And then final comments from Clayton Geathers.
Yeah, it was a good experience. Wish we had a W, but now we just got to move forward, go to practice Monday, and look forward to the rest of the season.
All right, real quick, just touching on what George had to say. Spark plug in the second half, my derriere. He was the entire engine of that offense. He left out, he's talking about the defense, and yes, the defense needed to make a stop. We needed to do something in the secondary. We needed desperately to make a stop on that final drive. So Ficken, who, I was hoping he would be inconsistent like he was last year against us, but he was just continuing how he finished last season, and he absolutely killed us. The thing George didn't touch on was coaching. The 4 plays on the goal line, the starting of DeNovo.
Yeah, he didn't really take any credit. And of course, he's not going to come out and say, "Oh, well, I made a mistake."
Well, not true. A lot of coaches do.
Some coaches do, but I don't think George O'Leary does that.
However, moving forward, if we take this as a learning lesson, if we start Holman from here on out, if we have a few changes in play calling, did you see a single screen all the game?
I didn't.
I was, like I said, I had started drinking in the second quarter because
we had
pissed off.
A lot of the same stuff of up the middle, up the middle, up the middle, up the middle, which didn't work once. So why would we try it again?
So given that some changes in a little bit of which players starting, play calling, and moving forward. Because did you watch any of the Mizzou game yesterday?
I would never.
Fair enough. They got lit up on the ground.
I kind of heard that, the score was close there for at least the first half, right?
Well, they lost their starting quarterback, the Jacks did, South Dakota State, I believe. Forgive me if I got it wrong. You're from the Dakotas. Though North Dakota State did win against another P5 conference. Iowa State fell to them.
Awesome.
5 straight years. However,
that's awesome.
Going back, they had a lot of success on the ground, even after losing their stud quarterback, who I wouldn't have minded if he was playing for UCF yesterday. And they were still able to move the ball, but especially on the ground. And then second half, after you have depth issues from an FBS and an FCS school, and that's when Mizzou started to take the game over.
All right. Well, yeah, I didn't get to see any of that.
Did you watch Tulane against Tulsa?
I saw a little bit of it.
That was a pretty good game.
Yeah, it was a good game. There was a couple American Conference games that weren't bad.
No, not at all. Leading into yesterday, I had no worries about Tulane or Tulsa, what they're going to do against UCF this season. And then I saw DeNovo play. So I'm still a little iffy. Tulane has a lot of young talent, and as long as they...
USF almost got beat by a 8th grade team or something like that, didn't they?
Yes, almost.
Yeah.
Almost. I'm wondering that program's going to fold.
I think the rushing game from them was tremendous.
Yet we'll end up playing down to them again this season.
Oh, whatever. We will. All right, let's get to some questions. So I got a new intro here for Kurt's questions. All right, Knight fans, welcome to this episode of Kurt's Questions, featuring Kurt Searcy.
Did you steal that from a Lawrence Welk TV show?
No.
A game show?
It's game show music, but it's not from a game show. That's
your new gig.
You can get these things.
You should be a jingle writer.
I would love to be a jingle writer, actually. You can get these things, though. They are available out there for a licensing fee.
Some people got paid money for doing that?
Somebody did get paid money, yes.
And you paid?
Yes, I did. Okay. Anyway, so here's our first question from Kurt. Kurt asks, is there a quarterback controversy? I say no. We don't have a controversy. Holman should be our quarterback.
Maybe in Jacksonville there's a quarterback controversy.
There definitely is a quarterback controversy in Jacksonville, and we will get to that in a few moments.
And if there's a quarterback controversy in UCF, it has everything to do with the coaching staff.
It does. Like I said before, I'm blown away that they would make a decision to play someone. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about it anymore, to be honest.
Moving on.
So the next question that Kurt gives us is, how does UCF adjust to the offense if the other quarterback is the new starter?
Adjust to the offense. I think we'll be thankful that we have offense this time.
Yeah, we'll have some offense, I think. That would be the... No, but there's always a little bit of adjustment. There's, his cadence is a little bit different, I'm sure. He can actually throw the ball.
It looks like we adjusted very well in the second half, and that it was a seamless transition, not from DeNovo to Holman, but from almost Bortles to Holman, because he was a dual threat quarterback. So moving forward, if we keep him in the starting position, I think our offense is, he gives our offensive line more time.
I think it would be absolutely crazy to go back and try to do anything different than have Holman as a starter. We've said that numerous times in here. We don't need to say it again. He also asks, would you have somebody actually split snaps?
Wow,
would you have the two of them? Yeah, he's got a couple questions here. They're really great. Kurt is awesome. Actually, I think maybe next week we're actually going to have him on with us.
Is he just going to take over the show?
He's not going to take over the show, but
Kurt,
he's going to be
Knightline
Podcast. kind of like our mascot.
Mascot who asked all the questions. What was his question?
Do you think that they would ever have anybody split snaps?
God, I hope not.
I think we've seen that
a
little bit before.
We've seen that.
Larry has a habit of pulling somebody to the sideline and, okay, you watch this. Watch what's going on out there. I don't know if he probably didn't say it like that either.
Please tell me that was your impression. That was brilliant. That was almost nothing like him.
Yeah. But I mean, that was the nice way to say it, and that's what I'm assuming that he says.
I really hope we don't split snaps at all.
Yeah, so I don't want to see that.
When it happens between running backs, unless they're tired, so definitely not in the quarterback situation.
Yeah. I think you have to rotate running backs, but not quarterbacks.
You have to rotate running backs, but you're not like each set of downs you get into running back, where I've seen that before and it's failed for people.
Right. I don't even like it when they use a running back just for like third down or something, unless he's an absolute bruiser, It's not my favorite
thing.
You
need a scat back sometimes, someone to go out and catch a ball on the wing if the play breaks down, or if you can catch him sleeping with a draw play. Running back serves a pretty good purpose.
Yeah, but I meant just like having somebody at the 1 yard line, and that running back's the only one that runs it in at the, you've seen that before.
Yeah, I saw it fail.
Yeah, exactly. All right. One more question. Do you see UCF going to more this is a defensive question. Do you see UCF going to more of a 4-2-5 nickel or dime look for a pass-happy team like Missouri after Hackenberg threw for 454 yards against them?
Oh, I love it when you tell me that stat line. It just makes me cringe each time.
I'm never going to say it again.
You end up, you'll have to say it again, so you can't say never. No, I don't believe so at all. We have a talented secondary. It's just about getting them into the right positions, having them make intelligent football plays. Tyson Sumner's our first-year defensive coordinator. He's going to work with our linebackers. I mean, how are we going to get pressure?
I would like to chalk this up to them being like jet-lagged or something.
I don't want to chalk it up to any excuse. We had some terrible plays in the secondary. It happens. And if we learn from it, it's not a total losing experience.
Yeah, I think we will.
So moving forward, I don't see us going to a 4-2-5. We have too much depth at linebacker. We do have a lot of depth at secondary, but for the starters to play tighter, for the safeties to take better angles on tackles, I expect emphasis on the secondary during the next 2 weeks.
I've seen him a few times run the nickel and the dime, though. So,
of course, on third down.
We definitely do it, but I don't think it'll be a base defense that we run. So,
no, our linebackers are an integral part of our defense. A significant portion of our success that we've had in the past and going forward. We just need more pressure from the defensive line. So maybe a few changes on the front seven as opposed to changing the back seven.
Yeah, I just
dynamics.
Think it was a bad day altogether. You know what I blame it on, to be honest with you? I blame it on that freaking guy that was skydiving and totally missed the stadium with our flag. There was one skydiver that brought in the Penn State flag, and one skydiver that was supposed to bring in the UCF flag, and he freaking missed the stadium. He missed. He landed like at a Irish pub or something down the street. It was horrible.
No, that's terrible skydiving. But you're one of those who blames it on random stuff that's nothing to do with the game.
Absolutely. And the helmets. We should never, somebody said it on the board last night, we should never have any alternative uniform ever again because they're bad luck.
That's not true.
The shamrock, actually it was a 4-leaf clover. It was not a shamrock, but that was a bad idea.
There was a 4-leaf clover and a shamrock. However.
Was there? Okay.
Yes, anyway. We need to change our jerseys. I absolutely believe we need to get rid of this urine-colored gold and white combo and just go with black
if we do anything to the jerseys, we need to get the players' names on them. That's a totally different subject, and we can go over that.
I liked it to extent seniors and captains get their names on them.
I think everybody should have their names on them. Just,
Why? So you don't call everyone Nick Patty?
Absolutely. Yes. Anyway.
All right. No to the 4-2-5 defense, Kurt, and don't give him any ideas.
All right, on to some NFL news. There were cuts made for the 53-man rosters on all the NFL teams, and some of our guys made it, some of them didn't. We got a list here. Charlie Huglet was released by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Terrell Troop was released from the Oakland Raiders. Blake Klinglin was released from the Washington Redskins. Troy Davis released by the Jets, and Chris Martin released by the Patriots. But there are good stories that come out of this as well. I think both the McRae boys are on their teams. I didn't hear of them being released. Latavius Murray, of course, Jamar Newsome.
I actually drafted Latavius Murray just as a homer pick in my fantasy football.
Well, you never know.
I'm a little thin on running backs.
Yeah. Kamar Aiken also. That was kind of honestly a little bit of a big story that he made the Ravens, because that was like a big-time battle up there for the receivers.
I actually got a little worried about Storm.
I did too. Because
he was supposed to be featured in that final preseason game. He had 1 carry for -4 yards.
Yeah, maybe he's hurt or something. You never know.
Well, whatever it is, he didn't get cut.
Yeah, so they believe in him, and for good reason.
He's the 4th running back. That's a lot of running backs to carry.
Right. And you never know. I mean, personally, I don't think we're going to see anything. I think Toby Gerhart is a joke. So I don't think that he is anything, to be honest with you. I'm not expecting much out of him at all. He sat behind Adrian Peterson, which anybody would sit behind Adrian Peterson, but I'm not. He's not my.
You're not a big fan of Toby Gerhart.
Not my idea of a running back at all.
Gotcha. Now Blake Bortles didn't get cut. Brandon Marshall didn't get cut. Matt Prater didn't get cut. And that takes me on Prater. That frustrates the piss out of me.
Yeah.
Apparently you can beat your girlfriend on camera. Well, you just saw her go unconscious and then come out unconscious and admit it. Suspended 2 games.
They actually made some new rules this week.
That won't take an effect.
Yeah.
Until next season. And
did they not do it? It didn't automatically take effect with Smith from the 49ers?
Well, he tried
who went to Missouri, by the way, and that's what kind of players and people you get from Missouri.
He threatened to blow up a plane where the rest of us would be in federal prison.
Not everybody from Missouri is bad. Just the guys that play for MU.
But he gets suspended 9 games. But if you have a beer in your own house, quarter the season off the table.
Yeah, but if you drive your car after drinking said beer, that's a problem. And I think that's how he got himself in the position that he did. So hopefully he will get over this whole deal and move on and not make UCF look bad.
I still haven't forgotten the Nevada game, though.
Yeah. I wasn't there. I don't.
It's Hawaii.
Yeah,
would have been nice to have gone.
I've heard about it. I wasn't even around at that point. So, what else do we have here? I guess next week we'll be talking about the Missouri game, doing a preview on that. We are going to be weekly now, every week. I guess we just have to put this game behind us like O'Leary has his players do and look forward to the rest of the season, because hopefully, and I think that we will make the changes that need to be made, and I think that we're going to come out looking like an entirely different team against Missouri.
I don't want to look like an entirely different team. I want to look like the second half team with a little bit more stringent defense. That's the one thing about the second half. It gave us a bit of hope. It gave us something to build on, and I know that's a moral victory as opposed to the...
I don't want to see that team that played in the first half ever again, though.
Well, I want to see that defense.
Yeah, that defense, but not the offense. We can't have that. So I guess that's going to about do it, unless you have anything else, Troy.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're good.
I'm depressed. I mean, I haven't cried about this thing yet, but I'm pretty dang close. So,
do people your age have tear ducts still? Can you cry about this?
yes, I'm not that old. You're like 2 years younger than me or something.
Nice try. I'm much younger than that than you.
How much younger are you?
Let's put it in mathematical terms. I'm roughly 18% younger than you for your lifespan.
18. I'm 41. How old can you?
Oh no, I'm 33.
Okay, well, whatever.
You're a whole generation ahead of me.
I'm not a generation.
Whole generation.
Wow, that music just started playing like totally automatically. I did not cue that. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty much Schultz to shut up and go.
All right, we'll see you next week. This is Andrew Phegley, and
this is Troy Ondrizek. Thank you again for listening.
See you later.